Because you did the opening statement, and maybe I'll let your colleagues respond to some of the queries first, if that suits. I'll start at the back row and I'll do the front row then. Ms. Fitzgerald.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I suppose in relation to the local development companies, we have prepared a model of a local company led employment services. So we'll circulate that as a paper. So I'll briefly cover some of the key points within that. First is a point around local development companies. We're non-profit, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But also we have we're in every community in Ireland. There are 49 local development companies. We are in every urban setting, every rural setting. We have reach into every parish and group in Ireland. So we have this national coverage that the department has identified as a priority for delivery of employment services going forward. So we have the infrastructure. This infrastructure can also deliver somewhat economies of scale because we already have the capacity, the staffing. We can do it more in the areas where we don't have funded LESs at the moment, and we only have them in 25 locations. So to expand that to be in counties where none exist, like Roscommon, Leitrim, all of that, with a little bit of additional investment, we can upscale to provide those services in those areas. A very important thing about the local development companies is the boards of local development companies are made up of the areas of interest in those communities: employers, trade unions, healthcare services, education services, local bodies, local public reps indeed constitute part of the board. So we have that local knowledge and local investment from the community infrastructure in an area. Local development companies are, I suppose, big enough and small enough. And I think that's very important. All the research in social inclusion, and the core purpose of local development companies is social inclusion. It's not profit. It's not employment services only, it's not education services only, it's not disability services only. It's all of the matters that pertain to the promotion of social inclusion throughout the country. So that's very important because that speaks to the need for the wraparound services that people who are the most excluded in society actually require. They require services that actually are throughout the lifespan. And local development companies offer services throughout the lifespan on an integrated basis. So that means services for families and households where we are interacting with those families and households in terms of early years education, preschool, national schools, secondary schools, transition to third level, working with young people who are early school leavers. So it's not just that we do one thing. The purpose of today is looking at employment services, but we do much more than that, all of which are required to work with those most distant from the labour market. When you only work with people who are the most distant from the labour market around employment, you're missing all the other factors and the impact of those factors. The unique, I suppose, aspect of local development companies is our ability to actually work in a wholesome way across the lifespan with actual people. Non-profit. I suppose we're non-profit, but what does that mean? We don't make a profit, but we do. Our profit is the communities in which we serve. Our profit is the social benefit that accrues through our work to the community. So in a way there is profit. It's not cash and dividend for shareholders, but it actually is profit for communities and the individuals and the citizens of the state. I suppose we're asked what do we need to do, and we're at a sort of a crossroads at the moment and where we're actually going as a society in terms of the services we'll provide, and it is a matter of political will which model we will actually choose. So that's why this opportunity to present is of huge value. So it is a political choice. Will we go a for-profit road on this, or will we stay within the non-profit road? I suppose in relation to public procurement, and there is that mixed view at the moment of does it have to be, doesn't. In late 2017, the Department of Social Protection went to tender in relation to a national programme for people with disabilities, of which partnership companies actually work, and we do deal with them, not always under the headings that are funded, but under our other programme headings that are very important target group. So they went to public procurement in relation to the National Ability Programme. That procurement was restricted to non-profit companies only. So we do have precedent in relation to how we do this as late 2017. We have the wraparound services, again to emphasise that go throughout the lifespan. Our outcomes, we've outcomes across the lifespan. We can demonstrate this. We have an evidence base for our work now that's established through the capacities of staff and their strengths over 20 odd years. So we have the infrastructure to deliver going forward. So thank you for the moment.
Thank you very much, Ms Fitzgerald. Mr O'Reilly.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. And I suppose the first thing to say is we would welcome, the national coverage of this, because at the moment the Local Employment Service and the Jobs Club do not have national coverage, whereas most of the other programmes like SICAP and TUS and RSS have that. And I suppose coming from a rural area where we can provide the service in some areas, LES,